What's up, guys? I'm DK, and you're watching Pro Wrestling What If, the series where I look at the different what if scenarios as terms of the world that we call professional wrestling. 20 years ago this week was the 20th installment of WrestleMania, a WrestleMania that had some jam-packed matches, like the Rock and Sock Connection versus Evolution, a triple threat match with Chris Benoit winning the World Heavyweight Championship, which unfortunately in this day and age we don't talk about anymore, but it also had the epic moment of The Undertaker becoming the Deadman once again, facing off against his brother Kane. But did you know that originally Undertaker didn't want to return as the Deadman gimmick? And that is the focus of today's edition of Pro Wrestling What If. We answer the question of what if Big Evil / American Badass Undertaker continued in 2004. At Survivor Series 2003, Undertaker faced off against Vince McMahon in a Buried Alive match. Vince McMahon would end up winning the match due to interference by Undertaker's younger brother Kane, who helped McMahon bury Undertaker alive. During the Royal Rumble match a few months later, Kane would get eliminated after being distracted by The Undertaker's gong. Mind games would be played on Kane for months up until the showdown between Kane and The Undertaker at WrestleMania 20. This would see the return of The Undertaker's Deadman gimmick for the first time since 1999, and this would result in Undertaker defeating Kane and extending his streak to 12-0. The rest of 2004 saw The Undertaker have pay-per-view matches with the likes of Booker T, the Dudley Boys, and JBL. Undertaker would go on the rest of his career under the Deadman persona, even having classic WrestleMania matches with the likes of Randy Orton, Shawn Michaels, and even Triple H. So if we want to start this off, we need to begin at Survivor Series 2003. And I would still have The Undertaker face off against Vince McMahon. And the idea behind this is the fact of kind of how the buildup was already between Vince McMahon and The Undertaker. And this time around, of course, we don't have the Buried Alive match because we're not ending the Big Evil / American Badass gimmick here. We're continuing it, so there's no need to end it with the Buried Alive match. So I thought the perfect way is a steel cage match, a match where there's no way for Vince McMahon to really escape from The Undertaker. And although in this timeline Undertaker does win this match, he is still going to be taking time off from Survivor Series up until the road to WrestleMania. The Undertaker would then make his return at No Way Out, and at this time we're going to be making a storyline of an interpromotional match, a member of SmackDown versus a member of Raw. They announced that their representative for SmackDown is The Undertaker. Undertaker makes his triumphant return after having that steel cage match with Vince McMahon, and the announcement for the Raw representative is Goldberg. Now, you guys probably didn't think I was going to go down that route. You probably thought I was going to go with Kane, and I would love to have put Kane in this scenario. After rewatching the buildup between Kane and Undertaker for WrestleMania 20, I totally forgot how absolutely amazing that buildup was of just Kane carrying it by himself. But unfortunately, in this timeline, there's no reason for Kane to face off against The Undertaker because he's not transforming into the Deadman gimmick. Now, although we did get The Undertaker versus Goldberg many years later, we can easily say that if we had it at WrestleMania 20, that it would have been a much better match, considering that at least we had a prime Undertaker with Goldberg. Now we are going over to Judgment Day 2004, the next SmackDown pay-per-view, and it will actually be against Booker T. Now, in the actual timeline, he does face Booker T in a matchup, but in the Deadman persona, but I feel with the storyline that was involved between the two, that you could still pull that off with the American Badass gimmick. And in the real timeline, Undertaker had defeated Booker T in this match, but I would actually have the roles reversed. I would have Booker T go over on The Undertaker in this case. Undertaker already had a big win at WrestleMania against Goldberg. Why not give some of that rub to one of the newer top heels of SmackDown in Booker T? Now we go to the following pay-per-view of the Great American Bash 2004, and in the real timeline, Undertaker had a very weird storyline. Undertaker had a 2-on-1 concrete crypt match against the Dudley Boys. But now that we are in the timeline, of The Undertaker being American Badass, there's no need of this storyline because The Undertaker is not the Deadman, and without the Deadman gimmick, there's no reason that WWE would have Paul Bearer return to the company. So I think at this time, the way I'm going with this is that you call yourself the American Badass, why not go after the title of the US at the Great American Bash? Undertaker would go out and challenge John Cena to a match for the United States Championship, but then you have guys like Booker T who would say, hey, I just beat you at Judgment Day, I deserve a title match more than you, and then you have guys like Rene Dupree who have already been feuding with John Cena and has some unfinished business, thus creating the Fatal 4-Way match that actually was in the real timeline with Booker T, Rene Dupree, and John Cena, except this time Rob Van Dam is being replaced by an American Badass Undertaker. And the match result would exactly be the same, where John Cena picks up the win by pinning Booker T, thus creating the best of 5 series that begins at SummerSlam. Going to SummerSlam 2004, and he would be competing against JBL for the WWE Championship. And this match had happened in the real timeline, and I think it would stay the same way since SmackDown doesn't have the roster that it had a year ago, in that for one of the big 4 pay-per-views like SummerSlam, you needed a big star like The Undertaker challenging the top heel as terms to JBL. And once again, like the real timeline, JBL does retain the WWE Championship against The Undertaker. No Mercy 2004 rolls around, and it's basically the exact same thing. We're getting Undertaker versus JBL, but I don't think this time around we are going to be getting the last ride match that we got in the real timeline. In this case, it's going to be in Hell in a Cell. I think that's a pretty big stipulation for this match, and as terms to this matchup, JBL once again retains the WWE Championship due to interference, but for the love of God, I just could not for the life of me want The Undertaker to actually start a feud with Heidenreich. Can we all agree that that Heidenreich feud was so goddamn terrible? So to avoid the Heidenreich scenario, the interference would be made by Kurt Angle's proteges of Mark Jindrak and Luther Reigns. For Survivor Series 2004, we do not, and I mean we do not, get the Undertaker versus Heidenreich. So Undertaker in this scenario will be a part of the Team Guerrero versus Team Angle Survivor Series match. It's the same participants, except the Undertaker once again is replacing Rob Van Dam, or RVD. It was never my intentions to try to kick RVD out of these matches. He just so happens to be in the way, in which we would have Team Guerrero win just like the actual Survivor Series match. Armageddon 2004 rolls around, and in the original timeline, we have the Fatal 4-Way match for the WWE Championship of Undertaker, JBL, Booker T, and Eddie Guerrero, but that match actually doesn't happen this time around for the WWE title. That will be just a triple threat match without the Undertaker, and Undertaker is actually going to be involved in what was the 3-on-1 handicap match with Big Show, Kurt Angle, Luther Reigns, and Mark Jindrak, now being a 3-on-2 handicap match. This is kind of a storyline of like, let bygones be bygones, considering that the prior year Undertaker and Big Show were feuding on the road to WrestleMania. So this is more focused on the fact that they both have a common enemy in Kurt Angle, Mark Jindrak, and Luther Reigns, and that both of them would team up, since they were both previously a tag team in the Attitude Era, to take on these 3 men. And so just like the actual match that happened with just Big Show, it would be Undertaker and Big Show winning the match against the 3 men at Armageddon. Come Royal Rumble 2005, this is where I actually would have the Fatal 4-Way match, except this time around, it's what had ended up happening in the triple threat match at Royal Rumble with JBL, Big Show, and Kurt Angle, but this time inserting Undertaker into that match. And the same result happens where JBL actually retains the championship, pinning Kurt Angle, and thus not having Undertaker get pinned and not having the Big Show get pinned, so that way Big Show ends up facing JBL a month later at No Way Out for the WWE Championship. And so No Way Out 2005 so happens to have the same match versus Luther Reigns. This still would have made sense. It's the same motives that Luther Reigns had, in which the same result happens. Undertaker defeats Luther Reigns. WrestleMania 21 rolls around, and I wonder, can we go the same route as we got for WrestleMania 21? And in this case, there was just no way that I wanted to change the idea of Randy Orton facing The Undertaker at WrestleMania. I think the same storyline can still be in effect, where Randy Orton is trying to find a WrestleMania moment, and his WrestleMania moment is trying to end the streak of The Undertaker. But this time around, it's the American Badass Undertaker, not Deadman, facing Randy Orton. Undertaker defeats Randy Orton at WrestleMania 21. His streak goes to 13-0. Fast forward to the Great American Bash 2005. Undertaker would be back just in time for this event, since he did have a couple of months off to heal some injuries once again. And it's actually the same match, surprisingly. It is him versus Muhammad Hassan in a #1 contender match for the World Heavyweight Championship. And I feel like this definitely makes sense to once again have this match even as the American Badass, because of course, America. Any storyline you have when you have America go up against a foreign country, I think it still gets over. So it would have made even more sense for The Undertaker to go after Muhammad Hassan in this point as the American Badass gimmick, and you still have The Undertaker go over on Muhammad Hassan. And once again, for SummerSlam 2005, we are able to make the transition to have Randy Orton up against The Undertaker in a one-on-one match. And it's the same exact result with the same exact reasoning behind it. No Mercy 2005, it is the same exact match of The Undertaker versus Randy Orton and Cowboy Bob Orton in the handicap casket match. And if you're wondering, yeah, it's exactly the same thing. Undertaker actually loses the casket match against Cowboy Bob Orton and Randy Orton. Randy Orton pours the casket with gasoline and lights it on fire, essentially killing off The Undertaker. And now you're probably thinking, is it the exact same thing that we got at Survivor Series? Yeah! Team SmackDown wins the Survivor Series match. Randy Orton is on the shoulders of whoever is carrying him. I can't exactly remember, and all of a sudden... oh my! Oh man. Oh no. This is the time where the American Badass gimmick ends and the Deadman gimmick returns. I didn't want to change the handicap match to a buried alive match because it would seem more predictable that the Undertaker will return as the Deadman, but I feel like there's other ways to kill off a man than just burying him alive to bring back this gimmick, and I just couldn't see a time where we don't get this specific moment. Oh my God!
Oh my God, the dead has risen. What the hell is going on?
How badass would have it been at this time around at Survivor Series, celebrating the 15-year anniversary of Undertaker's debut? Not only does he return after being basically burned alive in a casket, he returns as the Deadman persona in this time around instead of at WrestleMania 20. Now this is where things would make more sense, to where Undertaker starts playing mind games with Randy Orton, and this would be the first official match as the Deadman Undertaker against Randy Orton inside Hell in a Cell at Armageddon 2005. But that's the end of this edition of Pro Wrestling What If. And if you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, comment, and especially subscribe for more videos like this. And let me know down below what you would have thought if Undertaker continued Big Evil / American Badass in 2004. And also let me know down below any ideas for future episodes of Pro Wrestling What If.